the one skill that stops conflict cold. It works in prisons, it works in boardrooms. He's a lawyer turned peacemaker, mediator of over 1,500 disputes, Pepperdine professor, and author of De-Escalate with his new book, Empathy Leadership, dropping this fall. Please welcome Doug Noll.
Was the worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disrupted: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance in Business, Mindset, Wellness, and Success to help you master disruption. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon. My guest today spent 22 years winning arguments in a courtroom. Then he walked into a maximum security prison, stood in front of 15 shackled former gang members, and discovered the one skill that stops conflict cold. It works in prisons, it works in boardrooms. He's a lawyer turned peacemaker, mediator of over 1,500 disputes, Pepperdine professor, and author of De-Escalate with his new book, Empathy Leadership, dropping this fall. Please welcome Doug Noll.
Lisa, thanks. That's very nice. Thank you very much.
I I want to hear about these skills that translate. I mean, you stood in front of 15 shackled former gang members and taught them one skill that stopped violence cold.
That's
I
right.
want to, let's unpack that. What is that one skill, and why does it work the same way in the boardroom too?
Sure. We're all human beings. We all have the same brains. Doesn't matter whether you're serving a life sentence in a maximum security prison or you're running a board meeting in a company. Your brain's the same, pretty much. The guys in prisons, the people in prison have made bad choices, which is why they're there. It comes down to this. When we become, I'll answer the question directly, and then we can get into the theory of why it all works.
Okay.
The secret sauce is this: two words: you feel. All you have to do to calm any upset, angry person, or to have a difficult conversation, or to deal with any kind of difficult human dynamics, is to simply name the emotion that the other person is experiencing with two words. You feel. You feel angry. So it would go like this: Lisa, you're really angry. You're frustrated. You're upset. You feel completely disrespected. You don't feel heard. You feel invisible, and you feel unappreciated and completely unsupported. And you're really worried. This is really making you anxious. And you're a little embarrassed and sad and a little depressed about this. And at the end of the day, you feel like you've been betrayed and rejected, and you're completely all alone in this. What happened to you when I just said that?
It made me sad. I was wondering, how do you know which emotions are applying to which person in
Every
particular?
emotion applies to every person.
Okay.
We all have the same emotions. We all experience the same emotions. We don't realize that everybody's experiencing the same emotions as us because we're isolated in our skulls. But
Yeah.
the patterns are all the same for every human being. And so once you learn the patterns, then it's an effortless task to name what people are feeling. And
Wow.
you do it with a simple use statement. Don't use active listening. Don't use nonviolent communication. Don't ask questions. Don't use passive voice. All that old 1950s technology. It has never worked. It does not work today, and it will never work. There is zero science to support any of that stuff, and yet it's still taught universally around,
Yes.
and it's all wrong. It just doesn't work. If it did work, I wouldn't be here. So the technique technically is called affect, AFFECT labeling. It is
Right.
Unlike all the other listening methodologies out there, this one has brain science behind it. The seminal
Okay.
study was called Putting Feelings into Words by Matthew Lieberman and his colleagues at UCLA in 2007. And what their brain scanning study showed is that when you name feelings or emotions, the centers of the brain associated with negative emotion become diminished, while the single part of the brain that's responsible for emotional self-regulation and emotional self-awareness, the right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex, becomes activated. So when we name what somebody feels, we're helping that upset person become calm. We're regulating, or really, we're helping them regulate their nervous system. And it works on every single human being, no matter what the context, no matter what the culture, no matter what the language. As long as they've got a functioning brain, it'll work without fail.
Wow. So, um, for example, instead of what you're taught a lot of times in personal development and coaching as like the I feel statements instead
Ah,
of you feel, and that when you say you did this or you did that, that you're putting someone on the defense. So this is going flying in the face of a lot of coaching
the
stuff.
teaching that you're talking about derives from the work of Carl Rogers and Thomas Gordon in the 1950s. And what they taught was correct. The problem is it was perverted in the human potential movement that arose in the mid to late 60s and 70s and carried on to the 80s. All of their work was completely misinterpreted in the therapy world, in the coaching world, in the conflict resolution world. And it ended up with this really perverted I statement stuff that does not work.
Wow.
When you are asserting your own emotions, their work what they said was correct. Here's Gordon's formulation. When you leave your socks on the floor, Lisa, I get really offended and feel disrespected. Can you please pick them up? That's what
Right.
Gordon taught. And
Okay.
that's okay. That works. Um, but if you turn around and say, who the heck do you think you are telling me to pick up my socks, right? Then I would have to
Right.
say, so Lisa, you just felt really disrespected and you felt insulted and you don't like being told what to do and your autonomy was threatened and it really pisses you off. See the
Wow.
difference?
I feel so heard. It's just an amazing difference. It's just,
That's right.
I feel like you really get me and
Exactly.
and that you're listening to me and and then I would see in the boardroom how that would be applicable because everybody needs to feel heard.
That's right. That's our greatest need, something we are all desperate for, is to be heard, to be seen, and to matter.
Right.
And we never get that from anybody. I mean,
So
how many times have you truly been heard in your life?
not often. I think people
Uh-uh.
assume quite a bit, based on past behaviors, then they don't actively listen or really listen. And when you started saying you feel, I felt acknowledged.
That's
I
right.
felt like you heard me. And I felt listened to.
That's right. And I call this nervous system leadership. That's the whole point of my next book, Empathy Leadership, coming out in September, is that if you're a leader, you're probably used to analytics and rationality and reasoning and logic and persuading people to do what you want to do and making hard decisions and driving results and all that stuff, which is all good,
Right.
but you're missing the point. You aren't leading rational beings, you're leading emotional beings. And nervous system leadership is your number one job. You've got to lead their nervous systems. And most of the time, they're going to be dysregulated, which means they
Yeah.
can't think, they can't engage in critical thinking, they can't use logic. You can't persuade somebody out of fear. You can't logic them out of their emotions. You have to meet them at their nervous system level. And this is what leaders have been missing for thousands of years. And now we
Well,
have the science that shows how to do it.
can you unpack this in a way of just like a practical example? Like, let's say
Sure.
you're walking into a boardroom and you got opposing sides, and everybody wants to feel heard and they want to just talk and they want to be right and they want to feel like they're super smart and they just want to talk. Have you ever
That's
been
right.
in situations like that?
So simple. Yes, it happens all the time. Or you walk into a board meeting, your CEO, let's say, you walk into a board meeting and somebody on the board all of a sudden challenges you.
Right.
And so what do you immediately do? You defend yourself. You go back to the numbers. You try to persuade them that they're wrong. Now it becomes a fight to be right. And that board member is now being challenged and now gets defensive and needs to be right. And now you're going like this. You can stop that. So if you were, let's say I'm the CEO and you're the board member, and you challenge me, I said, Lisa,
You're
you're
doing it all
you're
wrong,
you're
right?
really
You're
you're
doing
really
it all
feeling
wrong.
you're right now you're really upset and a little angry and feel disrespected. And you don't feel like you're being listened to. And you don't feel like you're being understood or heard or appreciated. And the numbers to you, this thing that you're pointing out is really important to you, and you feel like it's being dismissed. And that is kind of pissing you off. And it's making you upset. And a little sad because you want to be seen as a contributing member of the board and you feel like you're invisible.
Wow.
How long did that take?
2 minutes, but it's so
Not even
powerful.
that. It took about 20 seconds.
But it instantly like calmed my nervous
That's right.
system
That's
in
right.
a way that no
That's
one
all
else.
I have to do as a CEO. And so then I pivot. You say, yeah, that's exactly right. I say, okay, anything else? You say no. All right, let's take a look at the problem that you're presenting here, and let's examine it and see what's really going on. And now you can have a discussion about it. But you
Yeah,
can't have the discussion until you get the nervous system calmed down.
right.
And the only way you do that is by labeling the emotions.
This is powerful stuff. I want to talk a little bit about rational leadership, and you call that a myth. So
It is.
leaders are priding themselves on staying logical under pressure, and why does that backfire?
First of all, there's no such thing as rationality.
Okay.
I defy anybody to give me a working definition of rationality that really means anything. And you can go to any of the AI platforms or go to Google or wherever you want.
Okay.
And it is not going to give you a measurable definition. In other words, it's not going to give you a definition of a way of being that you can duplicate. It's a very amorphous, subjective definition. If you want to go strict and go to what's known as rational choice theory, which was developed by von Neumann and Morgenstern in 1946 in their seminal book, Theory of Games, in one chapter they lay out what they call rational choice theory, talking about utility maximizers. And this is what's taught in business school. We're taught that human beings are utility maximizers. That's part of rational choice theory. Within 5 years of, of that coming out, it was proven to be completely false and wrong. And
Doesn't sound
then
very human to me.
we're not rational. We're not rational. We're emotional. Every decision we make is emotional. Every behavior is emotional.
Right.
We can't even make decisions unless we have emotions. You know, Antonio Damasio's early work, he worked with a patient who had a brain cancer, and so part of his right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex had to be removed that connects the thinking part of the brain to the emotional brain. So he no longer had access to emotions. His brain couldn't process emotions. He could never make a decision. It'd take him 3 hours to decide whether to put on a blue shirt or a white shirt. He just couldn't decide. He was logical. He still had his intelligence, but he couldn't make a choice. All our choices are emotional. So that's the first thing leaders have to learn is you are not leading a group of rational people. You're leading a bunch of nervous systems. And those nervous systems in every second, microsecond, are asking 3 questions. Am I safe? Can I trust you? Do I matter to you? And if the answer to any of those questions is no, you have a dysregulated nervous system, which means threat response turns on. Part of the brain called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis gets activated. Cortisol floods the body. Prefrontal cortex becomes inaccessible to you, and you're totally focused on survival. And what's interesting is the brain is now reacting as if it's being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, even though you're sitting in a boardroom. Brain can't
Right.
tell the difference. Now you're in a boardroom and you've got 2 or 3 people who are dysregulated nervous systems. Do you wonder why your decisional velocity slows down? Why nothing ever happens, nothing ever changes, why the same conversations come up over and over again, why these meetings go on and on and on and on and nothing ever happens? It's because of nervous system dysregulation. And the CEOs that don't see this are going to fail.
Right.
Let's take it here, and here's where the real problem is: AI. The problem with AI is that it is accelerating this problem far faster than we've ever seen before. The asymmetry of the problem. And by that I mean, for example, you've got a disengaged vice president, or you've got a board member who's upset, or you've got a key engineer who's not engaged. You can go for months and months and quarters and keep putting off resolving it. You used to be able to do that because it was a slow degrade.
Yeah.
Today, with AI, it's accelerating so fast, it's not a slow degrade. It accelerates in weeks or months. And if you're not paying attention to this as a CEO, it's disaster. And not only that, the skills that made you successful as a CEO will not work to solve the problem. They simply won't. You need a whole new set of skills. Nervous system leadership.
I love it. So, like, you're walking into a meeting, everybody's already thinking about what they're going to say next, and they're all like a bunch of egos sitting in a chair.
That's right.
How can you bring everybody together before you start without knives out?
Well, there are a couple of things you can do. One thing you can do is just do a quick check-in. And this is something that when I was working in prisons, we always did this in the prisons. And I've done this in business organizations too. It works really well. Just do a quick check-in. Let's go around the room. Everybody take 90 seconds, tell us where you're at. Heart, head, and home. Where's your heart? Where's your head? What's going on at home? 90 seconds. Here we go. And as they go around the room, all you do is quickly affect label them. Oh, that's really upsetting. Oh, you're really happy and excited. Oh, frustrated. And you quickly affect label everybody all over. And now everybody's been heard. They settle. And now you go forward. That whole process maybe take 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, depending on how many people are in the group.
I love
That's how you begin meetings.
Heart, head,
And home. Don't think that because you're walking into a business meeting, whether it be a board meeting or executive team or anything like that, that's all formal business, bottom line. No, it's not that way at all. You're dealing with human beings.
Right.
Nervous systems. Work with the nervous systems.
This
Then
is
watch the success.
This is brilliant stuff. I know it's such a short podcast. I just have one more question for you about the empathy paradox. Why do smart, experienced leaders resist the one thing that would actually make them more effective?
Right. So as I was writing the book, of course, doing a lot of research, and I came across several studies that are absolutely distill the problem perfectly. In one study, a 2024 study, hundreds of leaders were surveyed, and they all said, "Will not use empathy. Empathy makes me look weak. It makes me indecisive. It makes me soft. I lose my authority. People don't respect me, and it's a waste a tremendous amount of time." Okay, so leaders hate empathy. There's another study that studied 25,000 emerging leaders, and it concluded that the sole determinant of whether or not those young leaders would become successful or not was whether or not they had empathy. So the one thing that leaders want, safety, trust, loyalty, engagement, productivity, all that stuff, the only way they get it is by leading with empathy. Now, the problem is no one has taught them how to do it because all the training out there is garbage. Empathy is not walking a mile in another person's shoes. It's not feeling what somebody else is feeling. That's the old, what we call the classical definition of empathy, but that's useless.
Right.
We need a precise definition that is teachable, replicable, duplicable, and measurable. And the definition is empathy is the learned ability to recognize and name the emotional experience of another person from that person's frame of reference.
Oh.
That is empathy, cognitive empathy. And once you master that skill, everything changes. And we can measure it. It's very easy to measure. I can take transcripts now with AI. We can take transcripts of Zoom calls or whatever. We can run it through an analyzer and we can say, okay, You were great. I mean, you affect labeled 50 times during this 1 hour meeting, calmed everybody down. Great. You used too many I statements. I mean, we can really look at language transcripts now and analyze them with AI and tell people, give them feedback on how well they're doing. It's a measurable skill.
Right.
It's not touchy-feely. It's how we are hardwired. It's hard neuroscience.
I love it that you mentioned it as what they're feeling from their point of
Frame
view.
of reference, which is why we use the use statement. The moment I
Yeah.
say I, whose frame of reference is it?
Mhm.
That's right. And do you think your vice president of sales could care less about what you think? The
No,
only thing that person cares about is what they think.
then the KPIs.
Yeah,
Right. This
yeah.
is fascinating conversation. I mean, I could talk to you all day, but I know that it is a short podcast. Any final words that you can leave our audience with about leading through disruption? Because it's one of my favorite topics. We've all been disrupted. Any advice you could give them?
So when we think, why is something disruptive? It's disruptive because it's creating emotional unease. It's
Right.
creating dysregulated nervous systems. The status quo is being changed. It's challenging people. And when they get challenged, the threat response goes on. The HP axis activates, cortisol floods their bodies, and they can't think anymore. That's what it means to be disruptive. Nervous system leadership. Acknowledge the upset. Acknowledge that people are angry, frustrated, pissed off, don't feel heard, invisible, unappreciated, unsupported, scared, nervous, terrified. Acknowledge it. Tell them what they're feeling. It won't change the fact of the disruption, but it will change the reaction to it. And you'll have a team that can manage it. And here's the other thing that's really cool. Teams that can learn how to do this and work through the disruption become aligned, they become cohered, they bond, and they're able to take on the biggest challenges without falling apart. Whereas their competitors can't do it because they've never learned the skill. And what's even cooler is that if you, for example, you bring somebody like me in who knows how to do this and teach you how to do it, you'll never see me again. Because once you learn it, you'll never forget it. And you don't need to be retaught. It's really cool stuff.
Powerful stuff. Doug Noll, where can people find you, find your book?
DougNoll.com, DougNoll.com. I've got a Substack, Doug Noll, DougNoll.substack.com. I got a lot of articles about this stuff on Substack. I got a massive YouTube channel, Douglas Noll, YouTube. Strong LinkedIn presence. You'll see a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. So I'm all over the place if you go out and look for me. And what I like to tell people to do, go to Claude or Chat GPT or Gemini and say, I want a high-level intelligence dossier on Douglas E. Noll, JD, who he is, what he does, what he thinks, and have AI give you a complete briefing on me and see what you get.
I love it. Thanks for being a fabulous guest, Doug Noll.
Thank you, Lisa.